Need custom beer labels fast? At InTouch Labels and Packaging, we deliver industry-leading 3-day turnaround on every order, regardless of quantity. We carry a wide assortment of die-cut templates in standard and custom shapes and sizes. With a combination of top-of-the-line machines and experienced operators, InTouch can pump out an astonishing quantity of custom labels quickly. Our competitive pricing means you get top quality labels without breaking the bank. Need help? Our top tier customer service is here to assist you every step of the way. So why wait? Get your custom labels with lightning fast 3-day turnaround and unbeatable service at InTouch Labels and Packaging, where your brand gets the attention it deserves.
And we're back. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our session here. Super excited to be back here for the 2025 Spring Conference. Thanks, Andrew and the team at Craft Beer Professionals for hosting this and organizing this every year. And for those who don't know me, my name is Matt Hon. I'm the Sales Director for Brew Ninja. Now, in the past, we've talked a lot about market data, market trends, operational workflows, and such. But today, I wanted to dive in a bit more into sales and distribution. I mean, I'm in sales, you guys sell beer. So I thought, hey, once you've made the beer, let's talk about how you can distribute and sell that product. So today, we're going to go over a few different distribution channels, some pros and cons of each. And I'm deliberately excluding the tap room. There's plenty of professionals out there that will talk to you about taproom excellence and how to operate and optimize them. I'm going to be solely focusing on pretty much the difference between self-distro for the wholesale side, as well as, oh, you can't hear me. Oh, dear. Everything should be fine. I'm unmuted. Oh, okay then. Fairly quiet. All right. I apologize, guys. I'll make sure my mic is. Is this a little bit better? I think next time I will do the ASMR method. No, I'm joking. But okay, sure, yeah. So yeah, I mean, thanks, Wendy, and thanks, Julia. I appreciate that that heads up. All right, so let's look at distribution methods. And again, as I mentioned, we're really not going to look at tap room. We understand there's plenty of professionals out there that will help you with that. My goal and focus today will be more about wholesale distribution, either through self-distro, you're doing it yourself, or third-party distribution. So, I mean, distribution is a big part of your business, right? It allows you to expand your customer base, grow your business, but obviously it's not right for everyone. There's plenty of breweries out there that solely sell out of the tap room, and they're perfectly fine with it. And of course, when you've made the decision to say, hey, I'm going to invest in a distribution channel, definitely that's kind of when all of these questions will come up, right? Whether you decide to go do it yourself, self-distro, or choose a third-party distributor in your region. And of course, we're going to cover some of the common challenges and solutions for each of the two different distribution types, as well as cover some, optimization methods, whether it be looking at CRMs, how best to operate in both different methods, and also some of the software tools that you may need to help you with either of these distribution methods. Excuse me. Now, I fully acknowledge, I want to bring this first is that distribution and the choice of it may not be fully available for you, right? In certain states, they're considered the 3-tier states, that you are forced to go through a third-party distributor, regardless of what you decide to do, and maybe regardless of even if you're just selling out of your tap room. So I fully acknowledge, and hopefully legislation will change in time that allows self-distro for everybody. But in many states, we're still seeing that self-distro is an option, and that you have a option to choose either or both. Now, there are many of our customers that also have the ability and the choice to do both. Maybe they choose self-distro for the local, more of a local economy, and then choose a third-party partner to ship off to other states or just further regions. So let's first look at kind of the pros and cons of a self-distro method. Now, benefits, of course, is really more control over your products, right? More control over your branding, storage, product quality, and really it helps you ensure that your customers are getting the same experience or even increasingly better experience as your brewery grows. The other thing too is really having that ability to one-on-one connect with your customers, hearing what types of beer they want, their type of feedback about your products, as well as better control on inventory. Keg tracking really is primarily for self-distribution methods. So you have the ability, if you self-distro, to say, hey, I can slap QR codes on your kegs, and then I can see which keg has gone to which customer and things like that. Not so much for a third-party distro, and we can discuss more of that in a bit. And of course, one thing that we all like, higher profits, right? One less hand to touch your product, one less fee to pay. So, but there are some cons to this method as well. Definitely that upfront cost of the trucks that you might need to buy, personnel that you might need to hire, right? Additional liability for any insurance claims that might come up due to it. There's also logistical challenges, right? Now you would, instead of just shipping it off to your distro, you now have to figure out what's the best way to deliver, where are your routes, what tooling to use in order to plan out for the different routing. And of course, again, more of that personnel logistics where, hey, if my driver's sick today, what happens then, right? Who's going to fill in? Who has if you have a big truck, who has the truck license versus a regular vehicle license, things like that. And one thing that not too many people think about as well is really there's a bit of a reach issue too, right? If I want to deliver and sell everything myself, I'm really more limited to kind of that 1 to 2 hour circumference of region that's around my brewery, right? Once you get a little bit further, we really have to look at other issues like additional warehousing or maybe hiring additional staff for regions that are kind of further out. So that is the kind of the breakdown of that self-distro method. Now, well, why don't we just go full third party? Well, yes, the pros of it really is, hey, we get a wider reach for geographical sake, right? They have, it's easier to scale, right? At some point, you're going to tell them, hey, I can make more beer. Your distro is going to tell you more about the type of beer that they're seeing, or kind of give you that market feedback. And there's definitely less complexity for you, the brewery. You really, for the most part that I've seen, a third-party distro just acts like a customer, right? You're making the beer, you organize a pickup date, they pick up their flats and batches of beer from you, and that's kind of it. Where it kind of falls off and then kind of the cons of it all would be really about that control. Again, you have less control over the relationships you have directly with the customer. You also have less direct data, right? All of the sales data, the sales trends are coming into your distro and not directly to you. Of course, they may have a wider reach of data, but again, all of that is kind of filtered by whether or not your distributor will actually provide you with that information as well. The other thing too really is, again, it does boil down to, well, they're going to get a cut of it, right? So a bit higher fees eating into the margins. So depending on kind of your own profit margin and kind of the buffer that you have, we really have to see, well, how much of it is it going to eat into? How much more can we sell or produce because of maybe going with a third-party partner? And a lot of that will probably have to come into kind of the negotiation part of it. So, but ultimately, hey, you know what's best for your business, right? Do you want the autonomy of self-distro or just the simplicity of a third-party distro solution? Or maybe you'll take a blended approach, right? Many breweries often, when they're given the chance, often will take a bit of a blended approach. Hey, for certain customers or certain regions, I can do the delivery myself. And maybe when it's crossing state lines or just further off, I'm going to get a third-party distributor to help me with those types of customers. There's also, again, kind of going back to what we had said earlier, the factors are there, right? Hey, do we already have a vehicle that I can deliver out of? Do I need to buy a new one or larger one? Do the distributors kind of have the same target market as what I would like, right? So I think that's also comes down to choosing the right partners versus just going to that route or not. Staffing requirements, do I need to hire more people if I decide to come in and bring it in internally? Tax implications and kind of legal side of things really happens more on if you're trying to sell across state lines, right? For the most part. I mean, there's definitely other contractual implications if you're working with a third-party vendor, a third-party distro, and kind of what you guys negotiated with. And of course, the rates, right? Are they selling it? Are you giving it to them in a rate that is super detrimental to your business? And also, do you have the production volume to match what your distributor wants too? I think ultimately, sometimes you can get into a situation where, hey, your distro loves your product, but now you're coming down to, well, do I have the volumes to produce enough to fulfill their entire market, that the kind of reach that they're able to reach? So all of these are some things to really think about and really consider when we're looking at whether or not you want to jump into either distribution methods. Or again, things to look at when you're looking at, moving between. But let's say you've decided, hey, we're going to go with self-distro, right? We love that we keep more margins, we keep more control of our product. But what do we need to do in order to make sure that that program is successful? So a few key things, and it's very general to also sales as well, right? We need some kind of CRM, customer relationship management, right? You need some dedicated personnel to constantly talk to your customers. You need to make sure we figure out, hey, what's the best delivery routing method, right? What do I need to do to make sure that I'm going to be more optimized when I go for delivery on a Friday or a Saturday? Or do you deliver every day, right? We know a lot of breweries who only delivers, twice a week, once a week, to make sure that they group enough of those orders and that it's easier to fulfill based on their own personnel. So these are the kind of topics that we want to make sure that everyone kind of understands and keeps in mind of. As well as, hey, are we distributing to other states? Are we looking at cross-state line distribution? And of course, when you're optimizing this entire process, how are we getting the money? Now, fully understand some states, again, it's purely COD, generally may not accept credit card payments, but we have to look at and discuss whether or not, hey, that is good enough for us. So let's look at CRM, kind of the customer relationship piece, right? I'm not going to be here to tell you how to sell to restaurants and, sell to liquor stores. Your guys know it. You kind of know it already. That's why you've decided to go on, this journey to self-distro. Where I'm more concerned or interested in is the kind of data that you make sure you can get with whatever system you have right now, right? Whether or not you're managing your brewery with Excel or CRMs or, brewery management softwares, it's when you start looking at distributing and selling yourself, hey, do we know a way to track how often my customers order, right? Because once you know around how often they order, we can start making estimations on when their next reorder is going to be. And once you can run that type of reporting, then your sales reps are going to have a way easier time to preemptively tell them, hey, tell your customers, I know you normally order every month. It's been a month and a half now. What's going on, right? Or, hey, maybe they come in before the time period and says, at the 20-day mark, I know you're about to run out of some beer. Hey, what's working, what hasn't been? And your sales rep can be kind of in the forefront of the customers to make sure that they continuously get that tap line going. Volumes purchased, right? So again, making sure that you know how often these customers order, how much they order, right? And also kind of the margins for each of these customers. Now, we understand sometimes, hey, maybe you're selling, your brewery is right at the state line there, so you're able to sell with your local state plus your neighboring state. So it's important to have some way to manage the different price points that you might have to provide in different states. So one thing we talk about here is kind of the idea of a price sheet, right? Making sure that, hey, my neighboring state has this list and set of prices. My current state, my home state has one list. So my customers, or so my staff and my sales members would easily know, hey, when I make an order to them, that is set at that price already. And of course, ERPs and CRMs there is really there to help you track all the progress that you're making with your customers. So having some form of a system, some form of a CRM would be just my number one thing to tell everyone if you're planning to, self-distro. Now, when it comes to delivery and planning, well, yes, we have the truck, we have the driver, but planning out your deliveries can really save you time, right? At the end of the day, we want to make sure that it's a system that it's easy on my drivers, it's easy on my production staff and maybe schedule it around production dates, right? And when I say system, it's not just software, it's just workflows. So like I said before, many breweries might choose 1 or 2 days out of the week to do all their deliveries because, well, I usually package on the Thursday. Perfect. I can do deliveries on the Friday, right? It allows you to schedule out your weeks better moving forward. And at the same time, it allows your staff members to really also help you pre-sell, right? Your sales staff can say, okay, well, I may not have that IPA today, but I know we are going to package that next Thursday. Great. I can start selling it so that on Thursday, you already have an idea of how many sixtils, how many half barrels, right? You're kind of pre-selling in that sense. So once you get that information, it can start affecting your production schedule as well, so that production and sales and delivery or more in line, and you don't have a lot of product waiting on the side, waiting for next Thursday or next week to get delivered. Again, shelf space is demanding. Your fridge space is also limited, right? Making sure that those timelines kind of match up would be the most perfect way. Finally, when we're looking at deliveries, we search for some tooling out there to kind of offer our listeners and viewers as well. So we've looked at some tools there's plenty of tools out there that can help you map out your routes and basically pull it to a Google Maps, right? The idea is that, hey, I know I have to make it to these 5 different addresses. What is the best way to go about so that and so that I know how long it'll take, how and I'm not going back and forth too often. So there's a company called Routific. That's exactly what they do. You can tell them, hey, how many addresses are we going today? It'll map it out for you and find the best route. And then honestly, there's no software to download as well. And they send your driver a text message that they can click on and then boots up that entire route onto a Google map. Again, we're not affiliated in any way with Routific. We have spoken with them before. We do have some kind of export for them, but we don't have any kind of business deal with them at this point. So purely for informational purposes. The other thing to consider once you start, self-distroing is keg tracking, right? Breweries lose a lot of kegs every year. I've heard numbers where they lose 10 to 20% of their fleet a year. Hopefully that's different now. That number has been is a bit dated on my end. But once you start self-distributing, you might want to charge keg deposits. You may want to start tracking these assets that you may have. Your kegs are expensive. They're not cheap to buy them and to manage and clean. So you want to make sure that your customers aren't losing them that often. Now, if you're already using softwares like Brew Ninja or Ecos or something that has keg tracking built in, perfect. That's something you can look into considering, making sure that it fits your current workflow. If you don't have something like us, then you know what, Kegshoe is a great option as well. They're another CBP partner, and that's their goal. The job is to help you, hey, scan, figure out where the keg is, which customer is gone to, which warehouse it's returned from, things like that. So they do a great job at tracking kegs specifically. But at the same time, again, it has to fit your current system, your current workflows at the brewery. But do note that, hey, this only also works if you own your own kegs, or at least have a long-term leasing agreement. I know there are products and services out there that you can kind of rent per keg or pay per use. Those kegs tend to not work in this situation, just because you might get a new keg every time you're you bring them back, or you might send them off. Maybe you only need 200 kegs this month, but you need 400 for next month. So some of those new kegs might have different barcodes to them. So just keep in mind, keg tracking works quite well, but it is more in a situation where you own your own kegs. Now, the other thing to consider when self-distributing really is also how we're going to receive the money. Hey, we know where the inventory is. We know how we're going to deliver them. How are we going to get the money back? Now, with third parties is a bit different, where they just pay you for the entire batch or the entire lot of product. When you're making deliveries to each individual customer, of course, the suggestion is always making sure you have some kind of format or system that helps you achieve all of that easily, right? Maybe it's, and To be clear and to be fair, some states don't allow you to pay with credit card, for example. Some states only want COD, cash on demand, or on delivery. Then sure, we have to build that process in there as well. Maybe providing the invoice earlier than delivery so that the customer already knows how much to pay or how much to prepare. Um, or making sure that we have a kind of workflow in place so that the checks or the cash comes back and your accountants know exactly what to do with it or how to process. Other things to consider with payments is also kind of the payment provider side, right? Of course, hey, again, maybe certain customers only want cash or only want checks. Maybe certain customers of yours are using fintech and that's already handled. Great. But in all the other scenarios, hey, at what point do we send them an invoice? At what point do we, process the credit card? If you have, let's say, Square already in the tap room, can I utilize my payment processing from the tap room in order to achieve that as well? So all of these questions are questions that you really have to start, thinking about if you're going down the route of self-distro, and how can I kind of streamline those process, right? For example, in Brew Ninja, hey, when you make an order if you make an order in Brew Ninja, we can send that over to Square to process the invoicing and payment provider and use them as a payment provider. They would send and automate the emails out to your customer. And then, of course, you can also get the credit card inputted directly from the customer. And then, of course, all of that can be sent to QuickBooks. So there are systems out there, not just us, right? Other ERPs can do the same, I believe. But the idea is making sure that hey, I have a system in place that can do these things, and these are the steps for me. Finally, I mean, this might be more about more for the breweries that are very close to state lines. I know it's very difficult to distribute to other states if you're not very close to them. But either way, I think what we have to start looking at is, well, maybe my brewery is big enough to do all that on my own. I have 3 to 5 trucks available. I have multiple warehouses. Great. But start looking at different tax rates for the sales tax for the local state that you're going into, any state reporting that you might have to provide as well. Also, any unique pricing. So again, back to that idea of pricing for different states. We often see that, hey, if I sell locally, that's one price. And when I sell it to, my neighboring states, it might be slightly different for a myriad of reasons, right? Taxes might be higher, the market might demand more or less, right? Then making sure that your CRM or your ordering platform can adjust to all those different prices is going to be a lifesaver for your sales reps, because we all know sales reps make mistakes. I make mistakes. Sometimes I put the wrong price down, right? So these things might happen at a brewery, and definitely having that there already makes it a little bit less prone to the mistakes that might happen. And finally, logistics, right? Are we looking at multiple warehouses that you might need to set up, different routing for your drivers or multiple drivers? So all of these things are something to consider. So, but what if I don't care for self-distro? What do I need to do or look at when we're looking purely at third-party distribution? Again, the relationship management piece is still there. You might not need a full CRM for this, but if let's say you just have the one distro, asking the right questions are very important too. Well, hey, when you're talking to your distributor, what is the market telling you, right? How has the beer been doing? Hopefully they have some kind of automated or reporting systems per month, so that you, the vendor, can see, and kind of you're the supplier, can see the statistics as well. But building that relationship with your distributor would allow you to see and have them at least tell you what they're seeing in the market, what beer they think will be doing well compared to what they know about the market, right? And of course, having a good relationship with them will get you kind of in the forefront of their sales reps, right? Making sure that you also teach them how to sell your product, right? Maybe you have a more unique product out there, um, or maybe just something more unique about your brand that you want to make sure that their reps would be able to replicate. Then that all comes down to the kind of relationship you have with your distributor. Now, not so much marketing collaboration to just or collaboration to just your distributor, but also talking about collaboration with breweries around you, right? That's why the CBP is so important, because it lets you and gives you a chance to talk to breweries from different states in different situations, doing different things, and to learn from each other, right? Um, Talking to other breweries really gives you, and asking them, hey, how is your relationship with this distributor or your distro? What do you wish you did better? Or maybe even talking about the kind of the pros and cons of different distributors, so that you get a better sense of what you're getting yourself into. Other things to really look at as well is trying to get into your distro's events and tasting, or tasting events, right? There's plenty of events that they may host that may be more for their other products. Maybe it's for whiskey or whatnot. I think as consumers, we've all seen these events pop up where an importer or a distributor sets them up, does a whiskey and beer pairing, or whiskey and dinner, or beer and dinner. So hopefully the kind of collaboration with your distributor would open that up for you, so that, hey, again, just more marketing opportunities that you didn't really have to set up yourself, but that you're a part of as well. Finally, the quality and delivery tracking piece with your distro. I mentioned earlier that keg tracking on your end as a supplier, as the vendor, doesn't work in this case, simply because, well, it would need to be the same software that your distributor is using, right? It's difficult to for you as a one individual brewery to tell the distro, hey, I want you to use this keg tracking software because that's what I'm using. So, but it doesn't mean that if you and a bunch of the breweries, gang up together, maybe that could work then. But that's what we've seen often as a we're a brewery management software. So that's what we've seen often, where when they have a distro, it doesn't make sense as much to go do the entire keg tracking barcode, and those kind of operational methods, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get some of the key data back, right? You're not seeing which customer actually has it. You just know it's gone to distro A. Sure. When you start maybe working with 2 or 3 different distributors, maybe that's when to consider that, though, right? Because you might have one distro for, one neighboring state, one distro for your local state, and one for somewhere else. And now we can really say, okay, well, at least I, the brewery, can see this list of kegs is with distro A. This list of kegs are with distro B. And now we can see, okay, well, so-and-so has, this is where all my entire fleet has gone to, and distributed between the different warehouses and distributors. Perfect. I think at that point, it makes sense to do all the scanning. But if you only have one, I don't think it's not, normally seen being done with. But Other things to really ask your distributor as well is, hey, what are some of the policies on how long you're keeping my product, right? One thing you lose again with distributors is that control of the freshness of the product, the how long, and then the handling of your product there. So asking them what their warehouse looks like, what their process, making sure that hey, they're only going to hold my keg for 2 months, 3 months, and then they might return it back because it's what am I going to do with that keg then, right? So making sure you know how they're going to handle your product is very key to choosing the right distro. And of course, just some final checklists we've made here, more for the contract side, right? Hey, are things all aligned? What you want to do with your product and what they want to do? Do we need to provide more marketing assets? And marketing assets could just be like, taps, right? The tap handles, making sure that, hey, we all understand what's going to go on there, policies about expiration, payment terms, and something that we didn't put in here is also, keg deposits and refunds, right? Are you going to charge them deposits? Are they going to provide the refunds separately? Things like that is going to make your life accounting for their business a lot easier. Before I do the whole recap, I'm going to slow down there and see if there's any comments or questions from the group. While I take a sip. All right, if not, we're going to kind of a brief recap here. Hey, key takeaways, if anything else, right? If nothing else, I want you to take away from this talk is, if you're looking at self-distro, what are the things to look for, right? Well, I got to make sure I have the trucks in place. I'm going to make sure that I have systems in the brewery that can support the action of delivery and sales and returning of kegs, right? Of course, it's better for your profit margin. Of course, it's better for understanding the market, but really look at what you need to do to make the self-distro piece better. And if you're already distributing, great. Look at those things too and say, okay, how's my CRM or how's my sales team managing my customers? How are kegs being delivered, and does that and are they being returned properly, right? Payment processes, who's is it just cash? Is it just checks? Can we also look at, if you're in a system or a state where it allows for kind of accounts receivables, well, how long are those receivables, right? How long before I get my money back from the restaurants or from the liquor stores? And of course, any delivery planning, right? Looking at, routing services, or looking at tools that helps you group your deliveries together, really will help kind of make your life easier, right? If anything else. And of course, if you're already in going through distributors, great. Obviously, they do have additional benefits that is hard to achieve internally, right? They have wider reach, scaling is a lot faster, and of course, you don't have to get your own trucks and such. But looking at it in a way of, how can I make that relationship with my distributor better? Is there a opportunity to get a second or third distro, since things are going so well? Hey, maybe I can expand my market a little bit, or maybe separate the products, right? Maybe we're seeing a lot of breweries do multiple product lines, from seltzers to ciders and definitely other products outside of beer, or maybe non-alcoholic beer. Do we need to get another distributor that's more focused on those kind of products than the current one that we have? All right, so that's kind of the end. Again, we're a brewery management software. For those who don't know Brew Ninja, that's pretty much we do. We do inventory. We help manage your operational process and workflows. We do have a CRM built into Brew Ninja as well. So a lot of what we said is available. Outside of the routing services, a lot of that is kind of handled externally. And if anyone have questions or just want to chat with me, I'd be more than happy to. This is the 5th time no one's really taken me up on it. So if you even if you're not interested in Brew Ninja, just to chat about what you're doing, I always offer that at the end of these talks. I would love to just have a few minutes. We can talk about your brewery, your business. And if I hear anything from other people, I would love to share that with you guys. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, CBP. And hopefully you guys have a great conference. And I'll see you guys in Indianapolis.